For decades, millions of people believed they had found the safest investment in the world. They trusted a man who appeared calm, intelligent, and respected. They believed he was a financial genius. They believed their money was protected. Some invested their life savings. Others invested family inheritances. Charities trusted him. Banks trusted him. Governments trusted him. No one imagined that it was all a lie. His name was Bernard Madoff. And he built the largest financial fraud in American history. To understand how he fooled the world, we must begin long before the headlines, the arrests, and the ruined lives. Bernard Madoff was born in 1938 in New York City, into a middle-class Jewish family. His parents were hardworking and valued education. From a young age, Bernie was taught that success meant respect, security, and influence. As a child, he was ambitious and competitive. He hated the idea of being ordinary. He wanted to be admired. He wanted to stand out. Teachers described him as intelligent and focused. He learned quickly and understood numbers easily. In his teenage years, he worked various small jobs to earn money. He saved carefully. He studied how businesses operated. Even then, he was fascinated by wealth and status. After graduating from high school, he attended Hofstra University and later Brooklyn Law School. But he never finished law school. Instead, he chose a faster path. In 1960, with only $5,000 saved from summer jobs and a small loan from his parents, Madoff started a small investment firm. It was called Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities. At first, the company was modest. Small office, few employees, limited clients. But Bernie had something special. He understood people. He knew how to speak with confidence. He knew how to sound intelligent. He knew how to make others feel important. Clients felt safe with him. During the 1970s and 1980s, Wall Street was changing rapidly. Technology was transforming trading. Computers were replacing paper systems. Many older investors felt confused and insecure. Madoff saw opportunity. He positioned himself as a pioneer of electronic trading. His firm helped modernize the stock market. He became one of the most respected figures in finance. He later served as chairman of NASDAQ. This position gave him enormous credibility. If he was trusted by Wall Street, he must be trustworthy. Or so everyone believed. Behind the scenes, however, something darker was forming. While his public trading business appeared legitimate, Madoff secretly operated another operation, a private investment fund. This fund promised consistent returns, not high risk, not volatile, not unpredictable. Steady, reliable, almost too perfect. Year after year, clients received statements showing profits. Even during market crashes, their accounts grew. When others lost money, Madoff's clients gained. People were amazed. Financial experts were confused. But few questioned him. Why? Because success silences doubt. Wealth creates trust. And Madoff had both. He carefully controlled who could invest. Not everyone was accepted. Sometimes he rejected wealthy clients. This created exclusivity. If you were accepted, you felt special, chosen, privileged. Investors begged to get in. Celebrities joined. Politicians joined. Universities joined. Charities joined. Entire communities placed their financial futures in his hands. Behind closed doors, the truth was horrifying. There were no real investments, no secret strategies, no miracle system. It was a Ponzi scheme. He used new investors' money to pay old investors. Over and over, year after year, for decades. But no one noticed. Because he controlled everything. He produced fake account statements. He handled transactions internally. Avoided independent audits. He used a tiny unknown accounting firm. He built a perfect illusion. Inside his office, employees processed fake trades that never happened. Computers generated fictional profits. Paperwork was designed to look legitimate. Even experienced professionals were fooled. Some analysts did raise alarms. One of them was Harry Markopolos, who repeatedly warned regulators that Madoff's returns were mathematically impossible. He sent reports. He provided calculations. He begged for investigations, but authorities ignored him. Madoff was too respected, too powerful, too connected. No one wanted to believe he was lying. Meanwhile, the scheme grew, from millions to billions to tens of billions. By the early 2000s, Madoff controlled the wealth of thousands of families and institutions. Some had no idea their entire retirement depended on one man. Others suspected nothing. They trusted the legend, they trusted the name, they trusted the image. The image was perfect. Loving husband, caring father, philanthropist, community leader, no scandals, no drama, no controversy, just success. But beneath the surface, everything was collapsing. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Bernard Madoff's operation had reached unimaginable proportions. His private investment fund was no longer a small hidden scheme. It had become a massive underground financial empire. Thousands of investors depended on him. Entire institutions relied on his reports. Charities built their budgets around his promises. Retirement plans were structured around his returns. Yet not a single dollar was actually being invested. Every month, Madoff sent detailed statements to his clients. These documents showed precise dates, stock symbols, prices, and profits. They looked completely real. Even experienced financial professionals struggled to find inconsistencies. In reality, those trades never happened. They existed only on paper. Behind closed doors, Madoff's small team of loyal employees generated fake transactions using outdated computer systems. Old software made it easier to backdate trades and manipulate records. The technology itself became part of the deception. One of the most dangerous aspects of the scheme was how carefully Madoff controlled information. Clients were discouraged from asking questions. Account access was limited. Third-party oversight was avoided. If someone became suspicious, they were quietly removed. Madoff's strategy was simple. Control everything. Money came in, money went out. Paperwork followed. No independent verification, no transparency, no accountability. And it worked. For decades. Many investors noticed something strange. Madoff's returns were too stable. Markets crashed. Bubbles burst. Recessions hit. But his accounts always grew. While others lost money, his clients seemed immune. Some people tried to understand how. They asked questions. Madoff responded with complex explanations about proprietary strategies and split-strike conversions. He used technical language that intimidated most listeners. People assumed they were simply not smart enough to understand. And so, they stopped asking. One man did not. Harry Markopoulos, a financial analyst, became deeply suspicious in the late 1990s. He examined Madoff's returns and realized something was mathematically impossible. No legitimate strategy could consistently produce those numbers. Markopoulos wrote detailed reports. He contacted the Securities and Exchange Commission multiple times. He provided charts, calculations, and evidence. He warned regulators repeatedly, for nearly a decade. But nothing happened. Investigators failed to properly analyze his data. Some were inexperienced, others were overwhelmed. Some simply trusted Madoff's reputation. He was too powerful, too respected, too connected. No one wanted to confront him. Meanwhile, the scheme continued growing. By the mid-2000s, Madoff's operation was handling tens of billions of dollars. Some estimates suggest more than $60 billion in fake account balances. Entire communities were affected. In parts of Florida, New York, and California, large groups of retirees had invested everything with Madoff. Synagogues and Jewish charities relied heavily on his fund. Universities and hospitals had endowments managed by him. When he appeared at social events, people treated him like royalty. He donated to political campaigns. He supported community organizations. He sat on prestigious boards. He was untouchable. Inside his own family, however, cracks were forming. His sons, Mark and Andrew Madoff, worked in the legitimate side of the business. They did not know about the Ponzi scheme. They believed their father was running a real investment operation. His wife, Ruth, trusted him completely. At home, Bernie lived comfortably but not extravagantly. He avoided flashy lifestyles. He did not buy massive mansions or private jets. This made him seem honest. A thief who lives modestly is harder to suspect. But by 2007, danger was approaching. The global financial system was weakening. Banks were collapsing. Credit markets were freezing. Investors were panicking. Suddenly, many of Madoff's clients wanted their money back. At the same time, billions of dollars in withdrawals were requested. And for the first time, Madoff could not keep up. There was not enough new money. The flow stopped. The illusion began to crack. In late 2008, the situation became desperate. Investors demanded over $7 billion in withdrawals. Madoff had only a fraction of that. He knew it was over. For years, he had lived with the fear that this moment would come. Now, it had arrived. On December 10, 2008, Madoff called his sons into his apartment. He told them the truth. He said his investment business was one big lie. He admitted it was a Ponzi scheme. He confessed that it was all fake. His sons were stunned. They did not protect him. They did not hide it. They contacted authorities. The next day, Bernard Madoff was arrested by federal agents. The news exploded worldwide. Headlines screamed, "The largest fraud in history. Wall Street's greatest scam. Billions lost." Investors were in shock. Some lost everything: retirement savings, college funds, life insurance payouts, family inheritances. Decades of work vanished overnight. Some victims fell into depression. Some lost their homes. Some committed suicide. The emotional damage was immeasurable, and it was only beginning. After Bernard Madoff's arrest in December 2008, the illusion that had lasted for decades collapsed in a matter of hours. Federal agents searched his offices. Computers were seized. Documents were collected. Employees were questioned. What they found confirmed the worst fears. There were no real investment records, no legitimate trading history, no complex strategies. Just fake statements, outdated software, and handwritten notes that tracked how much money he owed each client. It was not an investment firm. It was a massive accounting illusion. In March 2009, Madoff appeared in federal court and pleaded guilty to 11 felony charges, including fraud, money laundering, perjury, and theft. He did not negotiate. He did not deny. He did not fight. He admitted everything. During the hearing, he spoke calmly. He described how he started the scheme, how it grew, how he lied to investors, how he falsified records. He admitted that he knew it was wrong. He admitted that he destroyed lives. The judge listened in silence. Then came the sentencing. Madoff was sentenced to the maximum possible punishment: 150 years in federal prison, the longest sentence ever given for financial crime in the United States. He was also ordered to pay more than $170 billion in restitution, a symbolic number. Most of that money would never be recovered. Outside the courtroom, victims gathered. Some cried, some screamed, some stood in silence. Many had lost everything: retirement plans, medical savings, college funds, homes, businesses. For some families, the damage could never be repaired. People who had worked their entire lives were forced back into poverty. Some victims reported losing their sense of identity. They had trusted Madoff completely. He had been their protector, their advisor, their friend. Now he was their destroyer. As investigations continued, authorities began tracing where the money had gone: luxury apartments, vacation homes, jewelry, art, bank accounts. Madoff's assets were seized: his Manhattan penthouse, his homes in Florida and France, his yachts, his cars. Everything was taken. A court-appointed trustee, Irving Picard, was assigned to recover as much money as possible for victims. Over many years, he sued banks, hedge funds, and individuals who had unknowingly benefited from the scheme. Slowly, billions were recovered, but for many victims, it was too late. The emotional damage could not be undone. Inside prison, Madoff's life changed completely. He was sent to a high-security federal prison in North Carolina. No luxury, no privacy, no power. He lived in a small cell. He ate in a cafeteria. He followed strict routines. The man who once controlled billions now controlled nothing. Other inmates recognized him. Some hated him. Some blamed him for stricter prison rules. Some extorted him for protection. He became isolated. He rarely spoke. He spent most of his time reading and writing. Meanwhile, his family was collapsing. His wife Ruth was left with almost nothing. Most of her assets were confiscated. She moved into a modest apartment. Former friends abandoned her. Social circles disappeared. She later admitted that she had never known about the fraud. But many people did not believe her. Public sympathy was limited. Madoff's sons suffered the most. Mark and Andrew had turned their father in. They had cooperated with authorities. They had done the right thing, yet they were punished by public opinion. They received threats. They were harassed. They were blamed. People saw them as symbols of the scandal. In 2010, Mark Madoff committed suicide. He was 46 years old. On the second anniversary of his father's arrest, he was found dead in his apartment. He had hanged himself. His death shocked the nation. Friends said he had been depressed, overwhelmed by guilt, shame, and public hatred. Years later, in 2014, Andrew Madoff died of cancer at the age of 48. Before his death, he stated publicly that the stress of the scandal had destroyed his health. 2 sons lost. A family destroyed. The consequences of the fraud extended far beyond money. They reached into lives, relationships, and identities. Psychologists who studied Madoff later described him as exhibiting strong narcissistic traits. He craved admiration. He enjoyed controlling others' financial destinies. He believed he was smarter than regulators, investors, and institutions. He once reportedly told investigators that he had felt relieved when he was arrested, relieved that the lie was finally over. But relief did not erase responsibility. In prison, Madoff occasionally gave interviews through letters. In some, he expressed regret. In others, he minimized his actions. His statements often contradicted each other. Some days he claimed he felt deep remorse. Other days, he blamed the system. He blamed banks. He blamed regulators. He blamed investors. Rarely himself. Meanwhile, the financial world was forced to confront uncomfortable truths. How could this happen? How could one man deceive banks, regulators, and professionals for decades? Investigations revealed massive failures. The SEC had ignored warnings. Audits had been weak. Oversight had been superficial. Trust had replaced verification. Reputation had replaced evidence. After the scandal, new regulations were introduced. Audits became stricter. Reporting requirements increased. Risk assessments improved. But once again, for many victims, these reforms came too late. Their lives had already been shattered. Bernard Madoff remained in prison until his death in April 2021. He died at the age of 82, alone, disgraced, remembered not as a genius, but as the greatest fraudster in history. Yet his story was still not finished, because one final question remained. How could so many intelligent people be fooled for so long? To truly understand how Bernard Madoff was able to deceive the world for so long, we must look beyond spreadsheets, bank accounts, and legal documents. We must look into the human mind. Madoff did not succeed because he was the smartest man in finance. He succeeded because he mastered trust. He understood that most people do not analyze numbers deeply. They analyze people. They ask themselves simple questions. Does he seem confident? Is he respected? Do others trust him? Does he look successful? When the answer is yes, doubt disappears. Madoff carefully constructed this image. He dressed conservatively. He spoke calmly. He avoided arrogance. He presented himself as modest and reliable. He never pressured clients. Instead, he made them feel lucky. lucky to be accepted, lucky to be included, lucky to be chosen. This reversed the power dynamic. Investors stopped evaluating him. They started competing for his approval. Another powerful psychological tool he used was consistency. People expect reality to behave consistently. If something works for 5 years, they assume it will work forever. Madoff exploited this. Every month, statements arrived. Every year, profits appeared. No surprises, no volatility, just stability. In a world of uncertainty, he offered certainty, and people desperately wanted to believe in it. He also understood social proof. When wealthy families invested, others followed. When institutions invested, individuals followed. When charities trusted him, communities followed. No one wanted to be the only skeptic. Doubt became socially uncomfortable. Silence became safer. Even professionals were trapped. Bankers assumed regulators had checked. Regulators assumed auditors had checked. Auditors assumed banks had checked. Responsibility disappeared into the system. Everyone trusted someone else, and no one verified. Madoff's personality reinforced this illusion. Psychologists later described him as highly narcissistic, emotionally detached, and obsessed with control. He enjoyed knowing that thousands of people depended on him. He enjoyed deciding who could invest, who would be accepted, who would be rejected. Money was not his only reward. Power was. The power to shape lives. The power to create hope. The power to destroy it. Yet paradoxically, many who knew him personally described him as polite, reserved, and even boring. He did not match the stereotype of a criminal, and that made him invisible. His story teaches us something uncomfortable. Evil does not always look threatening. Sometimes it looks respectable. Sometimes it looks successful. Sometimes it looks trustworthy, and that is why it is so dangerous. After the scandal, many victims asked themselves the same question: how did I not see this? The answer is painful. Because no one wants to believe they are being deceived. Admitting doubt feels like admitting weakness. Admitting suspicion feels like admitting ignorance. So people choose comfort over truth, again and again. Madoff also benefited from institutional fear. Banks feared losing clients. Regulators feared political pressure. Firms feared lawsuits. Silence protected careers. Transparency threatened them. And so, the lie survived. For nearly half a century. Today, the name Bernard Madoff is used in business schools, law schools, and psychology courses as a warning. A warning about unchecked trust, a warning about blind authority, a warning about systemic failure. His victims were not foolish. They were human. They trusted, and trust was weaponized against them. Perhaps the most tragic aspect of this story is that it was preventable. Warnings existed. Evidence existed. Calculations existed. But courage did not. No one wanted to be the first to speak loudly enough, and so no one did. Until it was too late. Madoff died in prison in 2021. He never fully explained why he started the scheme. Some believe it began as a small failure he tried to hide. Others believe it was always intentional. The truth may never be known. What is known is this: one man created a lie, and thousands paid for it, with money, with dignity, with peace, with lives. And now, the question remains, how many similar schemes are operating right now, hidden behind respectable faces and impressive titles? How many people are trusting systems that have never been truly verified? How many warnings are being ignored today? If this story shocked you, subscribe to Voicerax. Here we uncover the real stories behind deception, crime, and dark psychology that were never meant to be revealed. Leave your thoughts in the comments, because the next story might be even darker.